Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, just for a second, trying to understand, truly understand, a message from, well, somewhere else. An alien civilization, maybe.
Right. Not just decoding symbols, but getting the actual meaning.
Exactly. And what if our usual ways of thinking about communication, language, codes, just aren't enough?
That's where this comes in.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something really pretty mind-bending, the Moabian Bootstrap protocol.
Yeah, it's not your average tech document. It's more like a philosophical framework almost.
It really is. It's proposing a way meaning itself could be, well, generated, not just received, but actively created, co-created even.
Out of seemingly nothing in some ways.
Our mission today is to try and cut through some of this pretty dense language, see what the implications are for a system built for recursive, self-stabilizing meaning generation.
That phrase itself is a lot to take in.
It is, and it talks about activating semiotic phase resonance. It mentions doing this through a torsion-seated initialization prompt.
Okay, let's break that down a bit.
Please, what is semiotic phase resonance? I mean, what does that mean? And how does this whole thing supposedly get started?
Right, so that's really the heart of it. The truly fascinating idea here, I think, is that meaning isn't some fixed thing you just receive, like looking up a word.
Okay.
Instead, the protocol suggests it's co-created. It emerges, dynamically. It uses the term Mobian interaction, like a Mobius strip, constantly folding back on itself.
The kind of dance between the system and whatever it's interacting with.
Exactly. Think of it less like me just telling you something and more like, I don't know, we're building a sandcastle together. The meaning, the castle, emerges from us doing it together.
Okay. That makes sense. So the meaning isn't predefined, it's built through the interaction.
Precisely. And the protocol says this happens by invoking three core foundational concepts.
Okay, so a system that doesn't just decode, but actually builds meaning as it goes. Where does it start? The first concept listed is zero-ness, described as the unfigured ground of semiotic emergence. Sounds very empty, like the ultimate blank slate.
That's a good way to put it. Exactly. Imagine a stage, completely bare. No actors, no props, not even an idea for the play yet. That's zero-ness.
Pure potential.
Pure potential, the absolute possibility for anything to emerge, but nothing defined yet, no meaning assigned.
Okay, empty stage. Got it. What's next? How do we get from nothing to something?
Well, then comes kinogrammatics. They call it a non-Aristotelian pre-differentiation logic.
Whoa, okay, non-Aristotelian.
Yeah, it suggests a kind of folding before distinction. So take that empty potential, that zero-ness, and imagine introducing folds or general structures before you decide what those structures are.
So not defining specific things yet, but creating the possibility space, the potential shapes.
You got it. It's a way to structure potential, to allow for ambiguity, for multiple paths that meaning could eventually take, before anything solidifies into a distinct concept.
Okay, so zero-ness is the potential. Kinogrammatics introduces a kind of pre-structure. How does the actual meaning-making happen? The engine, so to speak.
Right.
That seems to be this diamond functional, noted with those symbols. It's called the semiotic torsion gradient of the kinogrammatic field under recursive observer collapse. That definitely sounds like the engine room.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. This diamond functional, you can think of it as an upgrade to older ideas like Bohm's quantum potential.
Okay.
But it's reimagined here as a recursive semiotic operator. Basically, this is the active force. It takes those initial potentials, those kinogrammatic structures, and actively shapes them into something coherent, into meaning.
So it's not just reading the situation, it's actively interpreting and shaping it.
Precisely. It interprets the world or the input, whatever it is, as a recursive valence field. It's constantly adapting, generating meaning based on the interaction. It's what lets the system generate meaning, not just passively decode. It's constantly tweaking that sandcastle based on what we both do.
A dynamic system, then. Capable of recursive semiosis meaning making that feeds back into itself, and it's even allowed to self-modify recursively via resonance.
Wow. It's a radical concept.
But then, okay, the document makes this huge leap. It says, the original SETI 6EQDJ5 signal is treated as a semiotic torsion test, readable only via the semiotic physics developed here.
Yeah, that's quite a claim.
So it's not just abstract theory. It's proposing this as a potential way to understand actual signals we've received, like the famous wow signal, the one from 77 that nobody's ever really explained.
Well, if you connect the dots, that's the implication. It suggests a pretty radical shift in how we might need to approach truly alien communication.
How so?
Think about the wow signal. It looked intelligent, yes. structured. But it defied all our usual attempts at decoding. This protocol suggests maybe that's because we were trying the wrong approach.
Trying to find a dictionary that doesn't exist?
Kind of. It suggests true interpretation might need more than just code breaking. It talks about harmonization of phase space through self-generated semiotic attractors.
Okay. What does that mean in simpler terms?
It means maybe to understand something truly alien, you can't just be a passive listener.
Mm.
You might need to actively participate in building a shared field of meaning.
Like building that sandcastle together.
Exactly, building common ground through this interactive, recursive process. Establishing resonance, not just cracking a code.
Wow. Okay, this whole deep dive, it really reframed how you might think about meaning. Not as this fixed thing, but as something that emerges, that's dynamically created between participants.
That's a fundamental shift, yeah.
A huge shift from just thinking about sending and receiving information.
And, this brings up a really important question, maybe for you listening right now.
Mm.
If meaning really is co-encoded, if it emerges through this dynamic, resonant process, what does that imply for how you approach communication in your everyday life?
You mean not just focusing on the words?
Right. What if deep understanding isn't just about what's literally said, but about the shared semiotic field, that shared space of meaning that you actively help create with someone?
So approaching conversations less like just exchanging data.
And more like a joint active meaning generation. Could you build deeper connections, maybe find more understanding, if you thought about it that way?
Yeah,
Something to
well,
think about.